Distant Rumor presents Chocolate Yoddah Live.
Hey folks, pardon me. Hey folks, Chocolate Yoddah here, spelled Y-O-D-D-A-H, because film studios are litigious. Today is Monday, June 19th, 2023, and it also happens to be Juneteenth, or as some racists refer to it, Coonteenth. What an awful thing to say. Juneteenth is interesting. I'm glad it's a holiday. I'm glad people have off from work. Since in 2021, President Joe Biden signed the holiday into law. That's cool. It is a mixed bag for me because I'm not like the timeline of the actual events from 1865 kind of leave me wanting. I mean, it already had been almost 2 years since the emancipation of slaves, and then I think it was the National Guard had to be sent to Galveston, Texas, to basically tell folks in Texas, like, hey, free your slaves, right? And all that is cool, but it's what happened later on in that year that troubles me. I think it was December, because Lincoln had been murdered, right? And then I believe in December of that year, the 13th Amendment was signed into law, and I believe ratified a couple of months later. And so it was like, okay, in June, you're celebrating the emancipation of slaves. A little late, but you know, it's a thing now. Cool. And then in December, the opening paragraph of the 13th Amendment makes it clear that you're not really free altogether, because the opening paragraph states very clearly that slavery is illegal unless you're a prisoner, and then we can treat you like a slave. So what started happening is all these laws started coming about to make it as easy as possible to arrest and imprison black people. Things like sunset laws. It was illegal for a black person to be out in the dark. And that's just one of many. They refer to them as black codes. But it was just another example of oppression. So Juneteenth, kind of a mixed bag. But again, I'm glad, you know, I heard a comedian once say, you know, how could you object to a day off like this was referring to MLK Day? Because Senator John McCain, the war hero that has since died, was the lone holdout in Arizona for passing Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I remember a comedian saying, you know, and this was a black comedian, he said, if they gave me a day off for the Grand Wizard of the KKK, I would take it. So, you know, I get that. But, so yeah, any day off is a good day off for me. It doesn't matter. I'm going to work. I work 6 to 7 days a week anyway, so it doesn't really affect me when things are closed or people are off from work or whatever the case may be. But good for anybody who's enjoying it. I'm guessing it'll probably turn into a typical American holiday, which means that the original intention will be completely obscured, and retail outlets will figure out a way to monetize the event. And Patrice O'Neal, a comic who died in 2011, had said that if you notice, every American holiday is about something horrible. And a quick run through in your mind of American holidays, and you'll see that's true. It's all about, you know, soldiers dying and death and destruction and wars and all this wild stuff. I mean, even Valentine's Day, although not a holiday, has very dark origins to it. But that's life, right? I just reminded myself of this word that people use frequently and incorrectly almost every time they say it. And it's thinking about things with a horrible origin that triggered this memory. People use the word decimate, and they use it in place of the word destroy, but decimate does not mean destroy, not literally anyway. Decimate comes from a practice in the Roman military. Deci means 10, mate means kill, decimate. So what they would do to discipline the troops is that they would take a platoon of 10 where somebody messed up, someone made a mistake, and they would say that one of you has to die and the other 9 are the ones that have to kill him, and also choose which one it was. So to reduce by 1/10 is what decimate actually means. I'll see myself out. Bizarre trivia that no one gives a shit about. That's my specialty. Now, today, what's on my mind is something. I saw this quote and I became interested in it. It was something that made me think of a lot of things, like the fact that people think their own time is so different and special, or that other times were worse or whatever, or they didn't have the awareness then that we have now, which I don't see where anybody gets that idea. All you have to do is read classic literature and see that they were going through the same stuff then as we're going through now. My contention is that the only thing that's changed is technology. Humans are same as it ever was, to quote David Byrne. And to quote another song, before I read this quote to you, Billy Joel sang in the song Summer Highland Falls, they say that these are not the best of times, but they're the only times I've ever known. And I think that's true of everybody. I mean, you could read about other times, you could learn about other times, they teach you about other times in school, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, the times you're living in, or the time you're living in, is the only time you'll ever know, right? And this brings me to the quote that I want to read, but I'll tell you who said this quote. It's about Sterling Hayden. I'll read what I wrote down. Sterling Hayden lived from 1916 to 1986 and died at 70 years old. He was best known for his brilliant comedic turn as Brigadier General Jack the Ripper, right? In the brilliantly titled film Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. But I first saw him in The Godfather, where he played Captain McCluskey, a corrupt police officer who gets shot while eating spaghetti by Michael Corleone. In 1963, Sterling, a World War II veteran, wrote the book Wanderer, after suddenly quitting Hollywood at the height of his earning power and setting sail with his family in a boat of the same name. Here's an excerpt from the book. We are brainwashed by our economic system until we end up in a tomb beneath a pyramid of time payments, mortgages, preposterous gadgetry, playthings that divert our attention from the sheer idiocy of the charade. The years thunder by, the dreams of youth grow dim where they lie caked in dust on the shelves of patience. Before we know it, the tomb is sealed. Whoa, man, that is quite a quote. Oh, everything about that I love. And this book was published in 1963. This was a year before I was born. So I'm guessing he was writing it for a while. So, this is a guy who was born in 1916, and he made these observations. And every word from this quote could have been something written today, right now, and it would still be as relevant. And this is why when people say, oh, this person was ahead of his time, she was ahead of her time, whatever the case may be, if people are talking about the human condition, they're never ahead of their time, because the human condition has not changed since the beginning of time. And so anyone who writes about the human condition will always be timely. And it will just seem like they were ahead of their time when you look at it in retrospect. And also the assumption has to be there that their time was so different than our time now. And I just don't buy that. I don't get into nostalgia. I think nostalgia is ridiculous. Oh, these kids today. Oh, back in my day. I remember someone, I won't say who it is. She was saying to me, oh, in the 50s. And, you know, I've heard these people with their foppish twaddle go on, and those are not made up words, by the way, but go on about how life was so amazing in the 50s. You know, in the 70s, the television show Happy Days was based in the 50s, and it was all so innocent and lovely and amazing. Oh, which reminds me, how many times have you heard some hack on television say, today is the day America lost its innocence? I've heard that like 10 times. Like, you can only lose your innocence once, right? But apparently America's lost it many, many times. But, you know, when people talk about, especially the 50s, it's like, what are you talking about? There were whites only signs on businesses. There were... The Korean War started in 1953. A war, by the way, that is still going on. There's just a ceasefire. I don't know if it was ever officially ended. Maybe it was, but I know for about at least 50 years there was still a war going on there. But anyway, I digress. So not only was there whites only signs and the Korean War, children in grade school, we're talking 6, 7, 8-year-old children, were taught how to hide under their desk in case a nuclear bomb was detonated. Oh yeah, that sounds innocent to me. That sounds like a much better time to live. I heard a comedian once say, man, I can't remember who it was right now, but he said, if I get a time machine, I'm never going backwards. For black people, never ever go backwards, only forward. White people, maybe forward's not a good idea. But really, like, there is no time, in my opinion, where everything was wonderful for the majority of people. It might have been wonderful for a small group of white folks, all right? But even there, like, you know, yes, are Caucasians the ruling class in America? Yes, but the ruling class is very, very small. The 400 wealthiest families in America make more than 50% of the rest of the population. Okay, so, you know, it's a small group of people that benefit from being in the ruling class. Most other people are struggling, working hard. They still might benefit, and well, they still do benefit from looking like the ruling class if, again, you are white. But, you know, there's been no time in America where things were just wonderful for the majority of people. And I defy anyone to challenge me on that. And I'll be happy to admit if I'm wrong. I just don't see the evidence for it. Like, I would start by saying I don't think there's a 20-year period that didn't include war. America's been in over 175 wars, and most of them in the early frontier days, but like at least every 20 years there's at least one war going on. And I could be more generous. Name a 10-year period. Name a 5-year period. That should be easy. A 5-year period where everything is the way you're describing based on your nostalgia. That should be easy to find. but I haven't found it. You take a 5-year span and then start looking through newspaper clippings or front page headlines from those times, and you'll quickly discover that there was a whole lot of shaking going on. Man, I'm a quote machine today. Anyway, I have to admit, very often I say stuff just to make myself laugh, and if anybody else finds it funny, wonderful. If they don't, hey, I still laughed, and I'm numero uno! Anyway, so going back to Sterling Hayden, what a brilliant observation. I think it was an accurate observation, and it really is very, very indicative of what's happening now. People are doing not only insane things, but insanely dangerous things just for attention, just for likes, just for subscribers, just for views. All right, case in point, and do I have this person's name? Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. There was a person who jumped out of a plane. Hold on. He crashed a plane for views. Oops. I didn't do the right search term. Crashed a plane for views. I saw this earlier. Let's see. What do we know about YouTube? Okay, there we go. Trevor Jacob admits to crashing plane for views. So for those of you who don't know, on November 24, 2021, Trevor Jacob, who had equipped a small plane with cameras, pretended that he was having some kind of engine trouble, and then jumped out of a plane holding a selfie stick with a phone attached to it so he could film that. And long story short, he did it all for views. And he got his views. It's over 2 million or 3 million views at this point. So good for him. But he also pled guilty. Or is it pleaded? I'm never sure about that. But he either pled or pleaded guilty. And I think it's to obstruction, because he went back and cleaned up the crash site and told the people that were investigating that he didn't know where the plane was and all this stuff. So he pled guilty to obstruction, and it's a federal crime. So he's looking at I believe the mandatory minimum on that is 20 years. So the fact that he pled guilty will probably minimize how much time he winds up getting, but still, think about it. Just for views, this guy endangered himself, and he endangered other people. Like, obviously, he made a lot of calculations about where to let the plane go down and crash, but what if he was wrong? What if it had hit a populated area? What if it had killed animals or hit a power line or something like that? Like, this could have gone horribly wrong. But he did it, like 10cc sang, "The Things We Do for Love," right? Oh, somebody stop me. But, this is serious stuff. This is an insane stunt and insanely dangerous. And he did it just for the desperation of having views. I mean, hey, it's exciting when people see my stuff. But I also know more than likely very few people are ever going to consume my content. I don't do it for that reason. And I think that's why I will never be tempted to do this wild stuff, because I don't need to make a living on this. Again, it would be fantastic if I did. I would love it if I could stop working my day job, so to speak, even though I mostly drive at night, but it would be great if I could do that. It would be absolutely wonderful if I could stop working on that job and do podcasting and content creation full time and have my bills paid from the revenue I generate. Absolutely amazing. But I will keep doing this no matter what. I will keep doing it because I love doing it. It's the only reason. It's the only reason I'm doing this. That's not why I started doing it. I just thought it would be an interesting thing to do. I didn't know it would be so much fun. I didn't know I'd be interviewing people from Australia, from Africa, from Brazil. I didn't know I'd have friends of 50 years on the podcast with me. I didn't know I'd have my second ex-wife on my podcast with me. I didn't know any of these things when I started out, and I absolutely had no idea that I would wind up loving this stuff, but I do, and so that's why I do it. For that reason and that reason alone. If someone benefits from an idea that I shared, beautiful. That would be the best possible outcome. Even if someone just develops a new perspective on their life or something in the world, that's great. It's absolutely great. I don't have any of this, oh my God, please look at me thing going on. And I'm not trying to judge this guy for who he is, but I am judging what he did, right? There's this guy that just recently got arrested, I believe in England. He was breaking into people's homes. He was, essentially doing a home invasion and filming it, and he was terrifying people. One older woman that was just sitting there with her dog, he grabbed her dog and ran away with it. It looked like it was stealing her dog. And she freaked out. This guy walks up to like men and women, like a couple, and says, supposedly he says this to the man, but I don't know, whatever. He says, do you want to die today or something like that? And he's freaking people out. This is terrorism. Striking fear into people's hearts is terrorism, right? He might not have an agenda beyond that, but his agenda is just to get views. He's doing it for the worst reason. Not that there's any good reason to terrorize anybody, but, imagine, like, this is what it's come to. There are people out there doing wild things just for the desperation of feeling significant. And I get that's one of the strongest human needs that we have. Connection, significance, belonging, whatever you want to call it. That's what the MAGA thing is about. That's what churches and religious groups are about. We are pack animals, and we derive our value very often from what the pack thinks about us and says about us and how they treat us. So again, I understand the underlying motivation of all of it, but it's despicable. When we're like, my position in life in an overarching way is very simple. Do whatever you like as long as what you're doing doesn't harm another person. People do things that I don't relate to at all. Like, I'm on YouTube, so I don't know what I can say, but when people go to the bathroom on each other, I don't relate to that at all. I don't even understand how that happens, and mostly I don't even understand how you find someone else that wants that to happen to them too. But hey, it's none of my business. Two or more consenting adults, decide that they're going to go to the bathroom on each other, and that's how they find stimulation and enjoyment. Have at it. You're not hurting anybody. Okay? Don't do anything to children. Don't do anything to animals, because they cannot give you consent. And that's a twisted power dynamic, right? But anything other than that, anything that you do that other people might see as bizarre or disgusting or creepy or whatever, if you're not hurting anybody, have at it. Have at it. I have no judgment about it. It doesn't affect my life in any way. Do what you want, right? Digital Underground said, do what you want unless you like gang banging. Let's see how many brothers leave us hanging. Something like that. Man, I think that'll be the last song quote of the day. I might have broken a record today with song quotes. But at the end of the day, everything I'm talking about really is perfectly encapsulated in what Sterling Hayden said. You know, I'd actually love to read his book at this point, because, I mean, that's an amazing story. This guy, you know, I saw him as an older man when he was first in The Godfather. I had no idea who he was. He might have been a bit actor for as much as I knew, but he was a very, very successful actor, and he gave it all up. James Caan did a similar thing. James Caan stopped working for 5 years so he could raise his son Scott. And he did that at the height of his earning power. That's respect, man. Muhammad Ali, you know, was willing to be killed for his stance on the Vietnam War and his refusal to get into the military. And he lost 3 years at the height of his earning power. I respect anybody that does that. That is an extremely uncommon choice, right? So Sterling Hayden is now in that same category. This is a guy who was making money, and entertainment money is long money, right? And this guy gave that up and then gave us this book. And this quote from the book moved me, you know, like, you know, you really have to appreciate the idea, no matter what you believe. If you believe that you're coming back in reincarnation or life everlasting in some kind of heaven or whatever, that's all well and good. But no matter what, you only have this life right now. No matter what you do afterwards, that's going to be a different thing if you believe that there's something after this. I have no idea, right? I hope there is, but I have no idea. But I know that I have this life right now, and I don't want to waste it. I don't want to waste it in a desperate chase to have strangers love me. Okay, I don't want to whore myself out for views and likes and subscriptions or whatever. And if I ever get advertising money, they have to know that I'm following none of their rules. You either pay me the money to do this program or you don't. But if you pay me money, you're not going to get a say in what I do. All right. And if that means I'll never have advertising, so be it. I will not change who I am for this stuff. It's not worth it to me. You know, like I've said, I might have invented this quote, but probably not. I'm usually the 101st monkey on these kind of things. But if there's a price for your integrity, you don't actually have any. Right. So I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to say, hey, man, this is what I do. This is who I am. I'm putting it out there for whoever wants to participate and consume it. If you don't, if this is just me screaming into the void, okay. Like I've said before, this is the equivalent of my cave drawing. Just a way of saying I was here, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that agenda. I can live with that. It doesn't compromise me, and I'm fine with it, right? So, in conclusion, just be your authentic self. That's what I strive for. All of this work that I've done since 1987 is to strip away artifice, strip away anything superfluous, remove anything that doesn't serve me, remove anything that impedes me, and emerge the most authentic version of myself that I can unearth. That's all I want. I just want to be who I truly am, what I truly am, and honor that, and share that with the world in whatever measure that takes. If it's just the people in my life, so be it. If it's a stranger watching this, so be it. Whatever it is, I'm fine with it either way. And if no one responds to what I'm doing, then I'm only responsible for the effort. And I'm okay with that too. So I think that's it for now. Thank you to the folks who joined me on the Wisdom app. One of these days I'm going to figure out how to take calls live, but today isn't that day. And for everyone else, this is Chocolate Yoddah Live. Boy, I did not stick the landing. This is Chocolate Yoddah Live, brought to you by my podcast, The Persistent Rumor. The Persistent Rumor. And I do this every Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern. You can find it on YouTube Live. And of course, if you miss it live, you can catch the archive. You can see it at youtube.com/@thepersistentrumor and either click the like tab or type a few more letters /streams, and you will find all the live shows. And you can look around and find other stuff. And of course, please like and subscribe. That is the lifeblood of YouTube. So if I am going to grow this channel, intentionally or unintentionally, I need your help. And it's free for you to subscribe. But as Ryan Sickler says, it means the world to me. So thanks again. Peace, love, and granola. Talk to you soon.